MJ1, is that correct?
Right. What happened is this. I also learned of what happened to me from Kaela, the J-Rod that I met at S4. He showed me from his perspective what had happened to me in 1973. I saw myself being pulled by my chest upward off the surface of the park. I saw my grandfather going like this and basically panicking, crying, because he wasn't able. My grandpa was very protective of me, and he wasn't able to protect me. And now I understand, God bless him, why he was so upset. The one person in his whole life that he knew that he would protect, that he loved that much to protect, he couldn't at that moment. And I understand why he was so upset. But the J-Rod showed me what happened to me, that I was picked up and that I was laid down on a table in some sort of a craft. And that this craft was a generally chevron-shaped, almost triangular shaped craft. And I was laid down next to a series of young people, one of which was in fact the son of the former MJ1. Something went wrong during the course of my time on board the craft when samples were being taken of me for their studies. And the son of the former MJ1 died. During that time, they put some sort of equipment on me. It almost looked like EEG type, a neural net, if you will, of receivers, probes, electrodes, if you will, on me. And they were trying to save, desperately trying to save, and I could see the movement of the J-Rods around this other boy. And I know what he looked like and all of that, because I was seeing it through the eyes of Kaela. They were trying to save him, and he ultimately passed. During that time, apparently they were trying with whatever technology that they employ to save the boy by storing him. That Kaela was with the P-45s at the time. These were P-45, 1,000 J-Rods. And they looked at us, and they look at us as no more than containers or cylinders, almost like beakers full of material, of electromagnetic material. And so they were trying to store his energy, if you will, right? Marcia suggested the word vessels, right? They were trying to store him for a while, I guess, in me. Now, my memory of myself at the time was a rather dull boy that liked to play baseball and with G.I. Joes and things like that. The record of me at the time was that I had an okay acuity in science. That's what the elementary school teachers were saying. I don't remember having acuity like that in science. And there's a disjoint in my own story of myself because of this. Because after I was put down back in the park, over the course of the next couple of years, there were changes in me. But then again, there should have been, because I was growing up. But there was a substantive intellectual change in me, where I was no longer interested in those same things of my youth. Was that maturation? Probably some of it. Was it a change as a result of what was done with me on board the craft? The Majestic thinks so. Thinks that it had something to do with that other boy, because that other boy was known as very bright in the sciences. And all of a sudden, true enough, I got a hankering for Erlenmeyer flasks and boiling flasks and microscopes that I had never had before.
Okay, but
and I've possessed ever since.
On some level, the MJ1's son that was on the craft next to you, that possibly you received a soul transfer from, is the MJ group had to be cognizant of what was going on. In other words,
they knew that had happened.
And they knew during the time...
He's admitted to me that they knew that had happened at the time.
But in other words, was this... so you were chosen, in a sense.
I believe that I was... The only evidence... I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. The evidence that I have was that I was, from hearing about the sampling program, was that I was picked up as a random population sample. The son of a blue-collar worker, and just the son of my family was total blue-collar. But there are a lot of coincidences that suggest that people were moved into a place to later teach me that happened before 1973. Can I put my finger on that and say, oh yeah, they knew what was going to happen to me and that I was going to be picked up? I can't say that because I wouldn't be honest. But I get the feeling as though, Marcia has held up 2 letters to me, LG, for Looking Glass.
Oh, I see. I see.
I'm sitting here in the presence of an individual that actually knows more of the truth and cannot tell me, for whatever reason, more of the truth about what's happened to me than I know.
Okay.
She's just held up the letters LG for Looking Glass. She's indicating to me that they knew.
In other words, and Looking Glass is the ability to look into the future. So what you're suggesting is that
machine for that use, yeah.
MJ12 was using Looking Glass, perhaps saw that the first son of MJ1 was going to die, and planned to groom you to carry on.
It's possible.
In his place. On
it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been told by them that.
Did J-Rod...
Excuse me, but the hints have been, forthcoming that is the reality involved. Because, I mean, even, and I don't know for certain that he was ever read into the program. God bless him, Jim, my mentor, Dr. Jim Reynolds. He was moved into places that almost set him up perfectly for Dodie's call, my mom's call that day, to talk with him at Long Beach Memorial Hospital. And she has since admitted, she admitted to Marcy that she received a sum of money. There are some not good things here, and I still love them both for everything that they've done for me. But yet, there's an incompatibility now because I'm still the 8 or 9-year-old boy in their eyes that they are willing to try to take sovereignty away from. It produces an incompatibility in the relationship.
What we're trying to find out, though, is how did you hook up with MJ1 after that? I mean,
well, the first time that I saw him was at the back of the meeting room at the George C. Page Museum when I was a member of the Los Angeles Microscopical Society.
How old were you?
13, 14.
So it was a few years after.
It was a few years after I started becoming really interested in all of the beakers and the microscopes and things like that, where I was introduced to Jim Reynolds at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center. Jim Reynolds then introduced my mom and myself to John DeHaas, who was then an associate professor of protozoology, as I understand, at the University of Southern California. He was also the head of DeHaas